Greetings learners and welcome to our lesson today. My name is Chantal Oliphant. We are going to look at how to approach a drama. So let's dig in. Remember, we're looking at reading and viewing, but specifically looking at language features as well as comprehension skills. Now please take note, not comprehension skills for your paper 1, all right? Comprehension skills in interpreting prose texts like novels, dramas, poetry, all right? And in this case, we're looking at our drama, right? Remember, we are going to look at comprehension strategies for literature. So I want to look at this mouthful that I have for you, literary interpretation to develop a sense for a deeper appreciation of the literary meaning in text. Now, please take note, I said literary and not literally, all right? So literary, we'll be looking at your prose text, and in our case today, we're going to be looking at our drama, okay? We're going to be examining closely the manipulation of language in those texts and also answering questions based on literature text. Now, by the end of this lesson, what will you be able to do? You'll be gaining knowledge of the building blocks of literature, which means what constitutes the shaping of this drama that we're going to do. Acquiring reading skills, recognizing and understanding interpretation questions, using the correct vocabulary to respond to literature questions, as well as answering questions and understanding exam questions, all right? Now, some keywords that we are going to use in this lesson that you need to be familiar with is symbolism. Now remember, it is a symbol to represent an idea or a quality. So something is going to represent what you read or what you understand. Manipulation, it's controlling or influencing something or someone to have a desired outcome, all right? So this drama is written in a certain way so that you have, the dramatist has a desired outcome of where this novel needs to go or how it wants to impact the reader. Imagery, remember we're talking about vivid, or in our case, mental pictures. So you create a picture in your head of what the drama is trying to convey to you. And in most cases, they are using descriptive language, all right? And then our last word is literal. It's the most basic sense of the word. So the physical, the tangible, what we can see about that word, okay? Let's move on. What should you know? So from grade 10 and 11, you should understand figurative language, imagery, or symbols. You should know how to interpret elements in literature text, all right? Also comprehension skills for literature, all right? And then answering techniques. And then at grade 12 level, we are honing those skills. We practice them so well that you become very good at what you do, all right? Now, our common errors that we deal with, you fail to read those dramas, all right? We need to read, learners, for you to understand the entire text, all right? And then identifying the building blocks of literature. When you do not study your text, then you fail to understand the sequence of the unfolding events, as well as interpreting, analyzing, and responding to text, all right? And when you are not reading, you cannot interpret the question type properly and also not respond to the scope of the questions, all right? Now, what competency do I need for exam settings? Interpreting, analyzing, and responding to the scope of literature questions. Now remember, the reason why we want you to do that is so that you can respond to the questions appropriately to get the maximum marks. Also, interpreting the core elements of your literature text, all right? And remember, in exams, critical thinking is important as well as time management. You are in a time-bound area in an exam room, so remember to make sure that you stick to the time limits given to you. And that, learners, takes us to a short ad break. I will see you after the ad break. Learners, welcome back from your ad break. We will now be digging straight into our comprehension strategies for literature. So let's look at our first segment. The literary interpretation to develop a sense for a deeper appreciation of the literary meaning in text. Now, I know that sounds like a mouthful, but let's break this down. Okay, what problems do we encounter? Learners do not have an appreciation for the literary meaning in text. Now, remember we said literary and not literal. Okay, so not the basic sense of words or meaning. We're going to look at literary, so what the dramatist in this case is trying to convey to us. And when we do not understand that, we are unable to respond to questions appropriately. So now we're going to look at the literary interpretation. And for this little piece, we're going to look specifically at the building blocks for literature interpretation. So let's begin. Our first little block is setting, and remember this is the context for the time and the place where the story occurs. Now remember, time and place is very valuable when you have to make sense of what is happening in the drama that you're reading. Characters, vitally important, because these are the individuals who create the action that's happening in the story. So we look very closely at how they interact. Do they interact in a friendly way? All right. Are they hostile? All right. Do we have a BFF action happening between them? All right. So characters are very important. Plot, the sequence of events that make up the story. All right. How does it develop sequentially so that it contributes to what's happening in the plot? Our theme, remember this is the underlying message that, or the main idea that the dramatist is trying to convey in the story to our reader audience. The conflict, the central struggle, all right, the challenge that's happening. And remember, this is normally created by your characters and how they interact with each other, okay. Our next segment is the narrative, and remember this is the point of view from which the story is told. And if you're looking at it carefully, sometimes you have a younger narrator, an older narrator, or sometimes even an omniscient narrator, somebody that's overlooking the events as they are unfolding. So you need to be cognizant of that. And then at number 7 is our literary devices. So the techniques to enhance our storytelling, like imagery or symbolism, and many times a dramatist may use your figures of speech, hyperbole, alliteration, personification, even assonance, all right? So you need to look at those aspects as well. Now, let's look at our drama Macbeth, all right? And our question is, can you complete the table for the building blocks of the drama? And look at my little indentation there that says you cannot comment if you did not read. So learners, we are encouraging you, please, you have to read the entire drama in order for you to respond to questions. So in this question, we are going to look at characters, we are going to look at setting, as well as plot. Now, I know there are other aspects, but these are normally the aspects that they look at specifically in examination questions. So let's see if we can respond. Our solution looks at characters and setting in this little slide. So let's see if we can identify them. We have King Duncan, and these are his sons, Malcolm, and his second son, Donalbain, all right? Then we also have Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, as well as Banquo and Fleance. Now remember, Fleance is Banquo's son, all right? We also have the nobleman of Scotland, which is Seward and Macduff, all right? Now our setting, where it is taking place. The drama is set in Scotland. Now already it should have alarm bells going in your head. Does it look like South Africa? Probably not. So what setting am I looking for? I'm looking for grassy lands, I'm looking for plains and fields, all right? So Scotland has a specific set of guidelines that you're going to set in your head of how the scene looks. So some scenes are set at Macbeth's castle, at Inverness and at Dunsinane, and the final battle takes place at Burnham Forest. Now you know the significance of Burnham Forest because remember, the witch's prophecy says that Macbeth will not go down until Burnham Forest moves. And we know what happens. The soldiers then camouflage themselves and it seems as if Burnham Forest is moving. So remember, you have to know your setting. Let's look at the plot, all right? So the play begins with Macbeth and Banquo, 2 Scottish generals. They encounter 3 witches on a desolate moor. And already can you see there? Not common to South Africa. So what is a moor? You're going to have to make sure that you identify what that looks like so that your setting becomes clear to you. All right. The witches prophesy that Macbeth will become the Thane of Cawdor. All right. So remember, we don't have thanes here, but we have premiers of provinces. So can you see the connection that you need to make? Okay. And eventually King of Scotland, that one you understand. They also prophesy that Banquo's descendants, which means his seed or his heritage, will inherit the throne. Encouraged by his ambitious wife, Lady Macbeth, he murders King Duncan and takes the throne. Consumed by guilt and paranoia, Macbeth becomes a tyrannical leader. Take note, new word. What do we do with new words? We try to make sense in the context. Okay. And then he commits murders. This includes the killing of his best friend Banquo, whose descendants the witches said would inherit the throne. Macbeth's reign leads in civil war and is eventually overthrown by Macduff, which is the good guy, and Duncan's son Malcolm. All right, so we have the plot for Macbeth covered. So this is what you should be able to do when you are responding to questions. Let's move on to our next little segment, which is examining closely the manipulation of language. All right. So what are learners struggling with? So they are unable to read text, and because of that, they are struggling to decode the manipulation of language in text. All right. And because of this, they are not responding to scope of the question accurately, or they cannot make the logical sequence in the unfolding events as it is happening. This brings us to a short ad break. I will see you on the other side of the break. Learners, welcome back from your ad break. We will now be going on to our comprehension strategies for literature, and this time we're looking at answering of questions. All right, so let's see if we can identify our content areas that we're looking at. We need to recognize and understand the interpretation questions, right, and look at the contextual evidence that is given to us. And many times learners don't use the correct vocabulary to answer these questions. Also, gaining techniques to analyze, interpret, and respond to your literature questions, and then also understanding exam questions. So remember, if you're not able to do that, then you fail to respond to questions appropriately. You may not be able to analyze, interpret, or respond to those literary questions, and then failing to use the correct vocabulary to answer those questions. All right, let's see if we can move on there. Now remember, in this question paper, it is 70 marks, all right? There will be 2 sections, all right? So you'll have a text A as well as a text B, which means there will be 2 texts, all right, concerning the drama. And remember, all the questions will be contextual style, so you have to read and then respond. Okay, and remember, we cannot respond to a genre you haven't studied. And many learners make this mistake in the exam. So you have to respond to a genre that you have studied. Let's look at our first question. All right, so we are going to be responding to a question based on the text of Macbeth. All right, question 1.1. Choose a description from column A to match the name in column B. Now learners, can you see that you have to read your novel, so that your drama, so that you can understand the entirety of the text, because you won't be able to respond to this question if you haven't captured the entire drama. So let's see what we have. Our response says A, all right, is Seward, which is the Earl of Northumberland, right? In B, we have the son of Duncan, and in this case it is Donalbain, all right? So let me just give you ticks there for responding correctly. Then in D, we have Macbeth, all right? And it's number 3 because he is the Thane of Glamis, all right? And then in E, we have the son of Banquo, which is Fleance, all right? So easy, 4 marks based on making a mix and match question, all right? If we go on to question 1.2, describe the setting. Now, can you see now we're going to look at the building blocks of the literature, all right? Describe the setting of this extract, which means where does this take place? And remember, we know from previous knowledge that it takes place in Scotland, but now the noblemen of Scotland came to report to King Duncan about the battle, all right, so you can use that. Or you can say, the sergeant reported that Macbeth overpowered a traitor to Duncan's kingdom. So the setting here shows us that King Duncan is being informed, all right, about what has taken place in the battle, all right. In question 1.3, refer to line 7. Now, please take note, learners, there is your exam skill. Refer to line 7, which means that you have to find line 7 in the text. So if that is line 5 there, we're going to look at line 7 specifically. I've just located it in the text for you. You need to identify the figure of speech, and then also you have to explain why it is relevant. Now remember there, manipulation of language comes in again, and then relevance. Explain why this makes sense. All right, the critical awareness of language. So let's look at how our response gives this. This is a personification. My gashes cry for help. Now remember, if you have a hurt or you have a pain or a sore little ana, remember that that is an object, and that object is now given human qualities. All right, so therefore the figure of speech is identified as a personification. But now why is it effective? Let's see what our response gives us. The wounds are painful and need attention, or they are badly wounded and we need to take care of those wounds. The effectiveness, why is it relevant? Okay, and let's move on to our next question. Refer to lines 19 to 25. Now please take note, you've been given a range there. So if line 19 would be there, all right, and line 25 would be there. So now you've located yourself in the text. That's always very important, because remember, these are contextual questions and it's going to be based on what you see in the text. Okay, so locate yourself in the text that is given to you. And they give you the line reference so you know where to find it. Now, what do these lines tell us about Ross's state of mind? What is he thinking up here? What's happening? And then not only that, but you have to substantiate your answer. So to see, you're going to get 2 marks there. So you need to tell me what Ross's state of mind is, and that's going to give you 1 mark. And then you earn the other mark by substantiating, you supporting why he's saying that. All right. So in this case, let's identify our response. All right. Ross has admiration and respect for Macbeth. Now look at his state of mind. So we see the admiration coming through or the respect coming through. That is what he's thinking. Now, why does he have admiration? Why does he have respect? Because Macbeth is loyal to his country and to his king. Macbeth is patriotic. Okay, so can you see how you can earn 2 easy marks? But remember, you have to understand the scope of what the question requires. Let's move on, learners. So, in question 1.5, why is this statement false? Now, remember, it's not a true or false statement. They are informing you the statement is false, which is counting in your favor. So now you know the statement is false. But now, you have to read the statement to understand whether this is going to be false. All right, and why it is false. So your knowledge of the novel is going, of the drama, is going to be so vitally important. So the statement says, the King of Norway supports Duncan. All right, the King of Norway supports Duncan. Now, if you're reading the text, right, you will see there, all right, it says in line 19, and I'm locating it in the text for you. So they haven't given you a text reference. All right, they just asked you why this statement is false. So when you're looking in your text, right? Look for where Norway is mentioned or the king of Norway is mentioned. And we see it here in line 19 and 20. It says, where their Norwegian banners flout the sky and fan our people cold. So there's a hint already. So if he's fanning it cold, is with you or against you, all right? So in this case, just a little hint there of the word cold shows you that the king of Norway does not support King Duncan. So in this case, let's look at our response. It says, the king of Norway invaded Scotland, all right? Or the Thane of Gordo assisted the king of Norway to invade Scotland, which means this statement is going to be false, proven by the evidence that you have found in the text. Once again, learners, it shows you have to read your drama in order to respond to your questions. Knowledge of the drama as a whole, knowledge of the drama in its entirety will score you marks in the exams. So remember, we are looking at gaining techniques in analyzing, interpreting, and responding to literary questions. Okay, so let's dig into our first question. It says, describe the time and place where this extract is taking place. So remember, we're looking at two aspects. We're looking at time and we're looking at place. All right. So remember, that is the first question is normally based on that, so that you get an understanding of where this is taking place. So let's look at our response. It says, it's at Macbeth's castle at Inverness when King Duncan arrives for a visit. So remember, time and place. So place is Inverness. There we have it contained in our response, in our solution, as well as the time when King Duncan arrives for a visit. So there you can see you have your two ideas, which is going to be accommodated by those 2 marks. All right. Our second question, all right, and we have to locate ourselves in the question first. Remember, when it says refer to lines 7 and 8, you locate yourself in the passage, all right? And they've given you a hint as well where to find it. So if we're going to line 7, 8, so there's line 5, all right? And if we go 2 lines, we go where the air is delicate, blah, blah, blah. So there we are. And we are going to line 7, which is there, okay? So what tone would Banquo be using in these lines? Now remember, tone is also how something is said, all right? Tone is not looking at what is said. Tone is looking at how it is said. So in this case, how is Banquo saying those little words that he's uttering there? So remember, you can either say he's showing appreciation, or he's showing awe, or he's showing gentleness. All right. So when you read the line, it says, where they most breed and haunt, I have observed the air is delicate. And then we want to know, but why is he saying that? And how is he saying it? All right. He's saying it in appreciation of the summer breeze that he's experiencing. Okay. Let's move on. All right. Refer to lines 7 and 8. Where the air is moist and delicate, why would Banquo use this tone in these lines? All right. Now remember, we said the tone was how it was said, and now we need to motivate why he's using the tone of what he's saying. All right. So he describes the beauty, there we go, and the pleasantness of the castle. So his appreciation of what is happening around him, as well as the surrounding nature. Okay, so remember, we don't have to include all of that because we're only using 1 mark. So the marker would probably be giving you the tick if you have said any one of those in your response. Okay. 1.3. Choose a description from column A to match the name in column B. All right. Now remember, something here in column A needs to match up with something that they've mentioned or listed for you in column B. Now, learners, please take note, they will always give you an extra one, and that is to throw you off. all right? But remember, if you've read your novel, or if you read your drama in this case, you will know exactly what they're referring to. So let's look at our response, all right? It says, in A, the nobleman of Scotland in this case would be Banquo, so it would be A3, all right? You see the connection there. In B, number 4, it is attendant to Macbeth, and that would be Lennox because he's a nobleman of Scotland. All right, C, son of Duncan, in this case, is number 2, which is Donalbain, all right? And in E, it will be the King of Scotland in this case, which is Duncan, all right? So there you can see you've identified 4 easy marks that you can achieve in an examination. Question 1.4, choose the correct answer to complete the sentence given to you. Now remember, when you have options like these, there are going to be 2 which are quite close and 2 which are totally off. So again, I'm going to reiterate, if you've read your drama, you'll know exactly which one we're going to. So remember, it is choosing. The options have been listed there for you, so you will have to choose the correct one from there. So let's look at our response, all right? The purpose of King Duncan's visit is to do what? All right, to visit Lady Macbeth? I doubt it, he's the king, he has a wife. B, to celebrate the victory? Maybe, all right. So there we see it could possibly be that one. To honor Macbeth? That sounds like a possibility as well. To go on holiday? I don't think so, all right. So in this case, if you've read the text, it will show you, all right, that honor is being given to Macbeth here because that is what Duncan is coming to do, all right? To thank Macbeth because he has overthrown the traitor, which is the Thane of Cawdor. So there you can see your option would be option C, and you've made it your choice based on those options that you've chosen there. Let's move on to our next question. Question 1.5. Refer to line 15 to 20, all right, and explain the irony in Lady Macbeth's words. So let's locate ourselves in the question. It says lines 15 to 20, and we're going to look at irony. So location in the text. So here we go from there to there. That's where we're going to find our response. And remember, we're looking at critical awareness of language. So in this case, it is irony, all right, saying something but implying something else. So in our response, we find that Lady Macbeth acknowledges that everything they own or receive belongs to Duncan as proof of their gratitude, yet. Now, can you see how the yet changes your idea? So she says something, so the mouth is saying one thing, but now, by implication, there's something else intended here. Yet, Lady Macbeth knows that her repayment to Duncan will be his murder or his death, which means that she and Macbeth have planned that they will now take the life of the king so that Macbeth is able to take the king's position, all right? So can you look at the critical awareness of language there and how it is manipulated in Lady Macbeth's speech there? Right, line 1.6, refer to lines 25 to 26, all right, and identify the figure of speech in this line. And okay, remember we're locating ourselves in the text, there we're going, all right, and in our response, we find the solution to be a simile, all right? Our solution in this case is a simile. And remember, our figure of speech is also where we look at critical awareness of language. Move on to our next question, all right? Question 1.7, all right? And in this case, 1.6.2. Explain why this figure of speech is relevant in this extract, which means we've identified it, now we need to look at the relevance as well. And in our response it says, the same way that a spurred horse will move Macbeth's love for his wife, it motivates him to hurry home to her, all right? So Macbeth will be hurrying home to his wife just as a horse that is spurred on, all right, will move much quicker, okay? So we see the connection there between the two aspects. In question 1.7, What does this extract reveal about Duncan's character? And in this case, you need to substantiate your answer. All right, so let's look at our response. And remember, if they give you an or, it means you can mention either one. So, Duncan is gracious, he's polite, and he's courteous, grateful as he appreciates Lady Macbeth's hospitable nature. Remember, she's welcoming them into her home. Ironic as it might be, but Duncan is not aware of that, and therefore he seems to be in appreciation of her. Or Duncan is humorous, as he is wittily admitting that he is troubling them, but he would be very, very grateful that Lady Macbeth, as well as Macbeth, is hosting them at their castle. All right, so that wraps up. And remember, you need to have two reasons why you are substantiating in that way. So remember, you're saying he's gracious and then also giving me a reason why, or he's witty and admitting that he's bothering them and he'll be now be staying at their castle. All right. Learners, that takes us to a short break. I will see you after that. Welcome back, learners. We will now be continuing our questions, all right, on our drama. And remember, we now going to look at My Children, My Africa, all right? And this text comes from Act 1, Scene 5, as indicated in our little extract here, okay? And look at the setting. We've been informed that Isabel invites Mr. M and Tommy. All right, so they're having a conversation. Remember, they are going to go to this competition and they're preparing, so she's invited them. So let's look at our first question. Our characters have been identified in this little space there. So let's go to our first question. Describe the setting for this extract, and we're only looking at 1 mark. Can I just say, if your instruction keyword is describe, it means go into a little detail, all right? Give me some support where this is happening. So in our response, we see that Isabel visits Tommy and Mr. M at Zolele High School, and this scene takes place after Tommy and Mr. M have had an argument. So the setting has been clearly identified, and already it shows you that the marker is going to look for that evidence that you need to provide, all right? In question 1.2, all right, it says, choose the correct answer to complete the sentence, all right? Now remember, when you choose the correct answer, you will always have 2 that are going to be quite close and 2 that are going to be totally off, all right? So in this instance, remember, the word, the truculent silence between the 2 can be described as what? Now remember, you might not know that word, all right? The word truculent, what does it mean? So you might not understand the meaning of the word as you're sitting in an exam setting, but when you go to the text, you should be able to find more or less what that means. So when I go to line 10, a few seconds of truculent silence between the 2 of them. So that means there's something awkward about it, all right? There's something that might not be sitting well, okay? So already in your head, you've formulated an idea, all right? Remember, you don't know what this means, but based on the contextual evidence, you can find something close, all right? So remember, that's what you have to do when you're sitting in an exam setting. And in this case, our response says it means aggressive, all right? Remember, they have had an argument. They've had some sort of dispute, all right? And they're not agreeing on something. So it looks like they were becoming quite wordy with each other, all right? In my next question, and I'm moving on, point 1.3, explain the meaning of Isabel's words. So remember, explain. You need to clarify it. All right, break it down. When she said this, what did she actually mean? All right, I know, and it says lines 3 to 6. So let's locate ourselves in the text. There's line 3 and there's line 6. So now we've located ourselves, all right? And we need to find out, what did she mean by saying that? They know, okay, I have a good time with you, that we're a team, and we can put in some good show at the festival. What does she mean when she says that? Why did she use it in that way? Let's look at what our response identifies for us. It shows that he is aware of the expectations and perceptions others have of her. All right, so how do they perceive her? How do they understand who she is? Or she says that her family and friends know that she enjoys spending time with Tami and Mr. M to prepare for the festival. All right, now remember that Isabel is coming into Zulile High School as an outsider. Mr. Tami and Mr. M are there. So she's coming into their environment, okay? So why is she there? Why would she want to be there? And so her family knows that she's there for a particular reason, to prepare for this festival that they're looking forward to. Okay, let's move on, guys. We are doing quite well. 1.4. One of the themes in My Children, My Africa, is betrayal. Discuss this theme, okay? Now remember, theme is one of your building blocks of the literature. And theme, remember, it's the dramatist is saying, I want this to be highlighted, all right? So one of those highlighted themes is betrayal. And let's understand betrayal. So I know you, all right? I also know information about you, but I choose to withhold it, then I'm not betraying you. But when I disclose that information, then I'm in betrayal of you. So I say I'm going to support you, but then I don't. I promise you that this is going to be a secret between the two of us, and then I disclose that secret, okay? That is betrayal. Now, you need to discuss this theme, and please take note, it is 3 marks, all right? So in this text, the theme of betrayal is not going to be cut and dried for you. You should have read the entire novel so that you understand how this theme has progressed, all right, or how this theme unfolds. So when you're looking at your response, you're going to see how the theme unfolds, or how this theme of betrayal, all right, unfolds between the characters. So let's look at how or who are the characters who betray each other. So Mr. M betrays the learners when he provides the apartheid police with the names and addresses of the political action committee members at the school. All right. So remember, Mr. M is the educator, and they would have thought that he would have stood with them. All right. He understands where they're coming from, but no, he doesn't. He actually gives their names to the police who is investigating this incident at the school, all right? And then Tami feels betrayed by Mr. M's actions. Remember, he's a learner at the school, so he feels betrayed because he doesn't see why, all right, their political activism should have been exposed. The teacher could have kept their names a secret and not given them to the political police, the apartheid police, so that they could be arrested. Because once their names are out there, now they're going to be arrested, okay? And then Isabel feels a sense of betrayal when Tami decides to quit the quiz team to focus on his political activities. Now remember, Tami was on the quiz team because he thought that that would cover his political activities. But when he decides to quit that, Isabel feels that he's now not part of the purpose of why they're going to competition anyway. Okay, so remember, you have to have your 3 aspects, and there we have your first point, your second point, and your third point. So can you see how you've discussed the theme based on your knowledge of the drama as a whole? Let's move on to question 1.5. The expectations Isabel and her teammates have when they go to Zulile High are valid. Now, please take note. Once they give you a statement, it makes it easier for you in the exams, because all you have to do now is find evidence to support the statement. You don't have to decide whether it's valid or invalid. Can you see how this is going to help you? So already we know the statement, right? They tell you it's valid. Now you must say, all right? Find evidence, and remember, it's not going to be just solely in the text that you have in front of you. You have to use your your knowledge of the drama as a whole. So let's see if we have disclosed that in the response. Isabel and her teammates are genuinely interested in engaging with the students at Zolile High. All right, the expectations, remember? They expect to share knowledge and learn from each other. So her going there is a way of educating herself and the teammates at Zolile High as well. Their visit represents a significant step towards breaking racial as well as social barriers, as she was excited about fostering unity and understanding, all right? So when she goes there, it's not only to benefit herself, but it's also to benefit her teammates at Zolile High, all right? How she can enable them, how she can improve them so that they can become critical thinkers, and when they go to competition, they'll be able to have sufficient skills in order to win, all right? So remember, we already know the statement is valid. All you had to do was discuss your view of that to support the validity of that statement. And remember, for 3 marks, you have to give them the 3 different points identified. Okay, this is where we go to a short ad break. I will see you soon. Learners, welcome back from your ad break. We will now just be wrapping what we have covered in our lesson, right? So we have looked at reading and viewing, and remember we looked at language features as well as comprehension strategies. And remember we said we are looking at comprehension strategies for literature and not necessarily for paper 1. Then our strategies we specifically looked at was our literary interpretation to develop a sense for a deeper appreciation of the literary meaning in text. And remember, literary and not literally, okay? Where we looked at our prose text. In this case, we looked at our drama, okay? Then we examined closely the manipulation of language as well as answering questions. Remember, our keywords that we looked at was symbolism, manipulation, imagery, and literal, okay? And remember, in our drama, we specifically looked at how a situation, something or someone was influenced for a desired outcome, which means that in writing the drama, all right, the reader needed to be manipulated so that you can see the theme, the plot, the character, the setting of what the dramatist wanted to achieve. All right, let's move on. What are the critical errors that we look at? Remember, learners are failing to read the entire drama, and that is important, okay? Reading the entire drama puts you in good stead when you have to respond to questions. Building blocks of literature need to be identified, okay? When you do not study your lit text, what are you letting yourself into? Then you don't understand the sequence of the events as they unfold, and you fail to interpret, analyze, as well as respond to those questions. Then your interpretive style of questions is not responded to correctly because you cannot, you do not know how to do that because you lack the vocabulary to do so. And remember, the scope of the question becomes very vital when you need to respond to those questions in the exam. Okay. Now, our exam writing competencies, remember, our exam sessions or your exam sitting becomes time bound. So time management skills becomes very important. Look at the mark allocation, look at the time you have, okay? Analyze, respond to the scope of the literature question. That becomes very important because then you're answering what the examiner requires, okay? Reading skills to understand the imaginary as well as the figurative meaning of text, all right? What are you interpreting when you are reading that? And remember those core elements of your literature text are important. You need to be familiar with those building blocks of your literature text, okay? And remember, your active learning methods implies that you are reading that drama before you even get into your exam setting, all right? You need to be familiar with the unfolding events and how the characters interact with each other before you even hit your exam setting. Learners, remember there are past question papers that you can use, all right, to help you hone your skill for preparation in exams, all right? And it's specifically looking at question 3 and question 4. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I hope that the hints and the little practice exercises are going to help you to hone your skill in preparing for the exam. We wish you well, and I hope that you will join me next time.